Salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag, the mailbag version, if you will, of AMC Movie Talk, where all we do is take your viewer mailbag questions. My name is John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News. And joining me for mailbag today, our very own production manager, Mr. Dennis Zen is here. Dennis, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being here. So listen, guys, this is a much more laid back and informal version, if you will, of AMC Movie Talk. We're just here in Studio B, chatting movies, gonna take some questions and get to answering them. So let's get started with our very first question. And our very first question today comes from Ahmad Sadar, who writes, "Hey guys, I was wondering, why hasn't Hollywood picked up any movie idea based on the Warhammer 40K universe? By far, it has the most lore and most than other fantasy franchises out there, and you can place the story anywhere in the galaxy. Plus, they have a big book series that is called Ours Heresy, which is perfectly fit for a franchise and introducing the world of the Warhammer 40K universe. Love the show." Well, I mean, let's get this out of the way first. Lots and lots and lots of different stories and properties and things like that have book franchises. That ain't new. My Little Pony has a book franchise. That doesn't mean it's well suited to be a movie. Everything has a big book franchise. So that's because that's there, and it certainly doesn't mean that they're good to be made into movies. But Warhammer 40, I mean, I used to play Warhammer 40K. I used to get all the collectibles, paint them up, and all that kind of crap. I didn't play for long. I played for about a year. It's a very fun game. And the mythology behind it is pretty cool. Not bad. I mean, you could turn it into a movie, but like a lot of other properties I've been saying this about lately, I think a Warhammer 40K becomes possible as a movie if Warcraft does well. And I know we're saying that a lot about movies, but the interesting thing about that Warcraft movie coming out is that I think a lot of subgenre type projects are watching it I think studios are watching this movie very, very closely, because if it's good and if it succeeds at the box office, I think we've talked about this before, Dennis, I think it opens up the door a lot for a lot of, subgenre types of films. And I think Warhammer 40K falls into something like that. What do you think? What would it take for like a Warhammer 40K to actually get made and have a studio want to turn into a film?
Well, if Warcraft does well, then that definitely helps it out. I personally never played Warhammer. It was one of those things where I saw all the little models and I thought they looked really cool. I think I might have bought some and painted some, but I never actually played the game.
Right. I
think, though, even though Warhammer came first, I would rather see a StarCraft movie. And StarCraft does, I'm sure some of the designs are influenced by Warhammer and many other things. So I'm a StarCraft player, and I love the franchise, so I would love to see a StarCraft movie as opposed to a Warhammer movie.
I'd love to see a Queen of Blades.
And StarCraft is much more well-known.
Yeah, and it's tied in with the Warhammer thing. On a corporate level, it's tied in, so that's there too. But I agree with Dennis. I think I would prefer, if I had to choose between seeing a Warhammer 40K movie and a StarCraft movie, I choose StarCraft. But getting back to the question, I think a Warhammer movie becomes a lot more likely, not a guarantee, but it becomes a lot more likely if a Warcraft movie succeeds.
But then they would have to beat StarCraft to the punch. You can't have a Warhammer movie come out after a StarCraft movie.
Well, they do Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down. I mean, if they can do that. I mean, actually, honestly, if nothing else, I think a Warhammer film and a StarCraft film might help each other. Depending on which one came out first. Like if Warhammer 40K comes out and does well and is received well and people get into that style of genre, then I think a StarCraft movie becomes even more likely. And vice versa. But, I mean, I don't think you can release them in the same year.
No, and I think, I personally think Warhammer would want to come out first, because with StarCraft, it's just more well-known. More people play it. I mean, damn, like StarCraft, people were playing that game like years after it came out.
Oh, I still play it.
Yeah. So, and then the second one came out, and so I just think it's a bigger global phenomenon.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to the next question. Johnny Michael Charitonov writes, "Hey, AMC Movie Talk, you guys are great. My question for you today is, what happened to Steven Dorff? He hasn't been playing in many movies lately, and I was wondering, and I was always a huge fan of his. Where has he been hiding? Also, I would love to see him as a superhero or supervillain. What do you guys think? Thanks, and keep up the great work." Well, we were just talking about this question just before we started rolling in. Dennis goes, "What are you talking about? He landed that great Nicorette commercial. Was it Nicorette?"
No, it's those electronic cigarettes.
Oh, that's right, the electronic smokeless cigarette commercial, walking along the beach. It's like, hey, I think Dorff is doing just fine. Landed that sweet smokeless electronic cigarette commercial. The last time I saw Dorff was Immortals.
Yes.
Where he was kind of like the friend of the main character of Henry Cavill. I mean, okay, Dorff is a weird thing because he's already been in a big comic book movie. He was in Blade. And he was really good in Blade.
Yeah.
As Deacon Frost, I think that was his name.
I forgot the name.
I thought he was really good in it. And after seeing him in that, you'd think that he might start popping up and appearing in a lot of different things. But it never really happened. And I'm not really sure why. He's got a pretty good Hollywood look. He's got a gritty kind of feel to him. You'd think in certain genre movies he'd make a really good addition. I didn't think he worked so well in Immortals just because I didn't think that was the right role for him. I didn't think that role really showed off his strengths very much. But honestly, I'm a little bit surprised too. I would have thought he'd be a bigger star today. And I'm not really sure why he's not, to be honest with you. Dennis, what do you think?
In Immortals, I think the problem was that he just didn't fit in that world. Because if you noticed, everyone else was either British or at least doing a British accent.
Right.
And he had his regular voice. And he just felt so out of place. Like, oh, that's Steven Dorff, like from today, you know? And so I thought that's why he didn't work in that. Yeah, he was great in Blade. I think maybe if, let's say, Blade had come out, you know, closer to this whole like Marvel Studios, you know, not rebirth, but like explosion, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Blade was like kind of more of a trailblazer in a way. Like it came out as a comic book movie, people liked it, but it didn't fit really into the Marvel universe. And now, if he were in a movie like that, in that same type of role, I think more people would be casting him.
Do you think it's too late for Steven Dorff to become that next level of star, or do you think he's now going to be a usable just character actor moving forward?
I think he's just going to be a usable character actor. Yeah. I think he can still do that villain role. I can see him doing that, you know, even in one of the other Marvel movies, or even let's say a DC Comics movie.
Right.
But I don't see him being like a Robert Downey Jr. or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's now going to be just like a smaller character actor that will pop up now and again. But I hope I'm wrong, because I think he's got, like I said, ever since I saw him in that first Blade, I believe he's shown he has all the potential in the world to do something really cool on screen. But I don't know that's going to happen now. But it would be very, very cool to see it if he did. I think that would be really neat. All right. Pardon me, guys. Next question comes to us from Evaristo Amavisca. I'm the worst at names. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best. Evaristo writes, "Hey, movie talkers. I just want to ask, since they are talking about a Star Wars Boba Fett spinoff movie, what do you think, or do you think it is out of the question that a Wedge Antilles spinoff film could be a good idea or not? Also, how do you think it would do?" Okay, so you're talking Star Wars. You're in my wheelhouse now. I am the world's ultimate Star Wars fanatic. I'm not going to recount everything about my childhood again. That kind of and Wedge, no, nobody cares. Nobody cares about Wedge Antilles. No, I I take that back. Wedge. Here's an interesting little factoid. The only guy who was present in the destruction of both Death Stars was Wedge Antilles. He was there flying with Luke in the original one. He was there flying in there with Lando in the second one. He was obviously a pretty key character on Hoth in Empire Strikes Back. I mean, he is kind of the forgotten other character that is in all the Star Wars movies. And of course, by Star Wars movies, I mean the only real Star Wars movies: Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Wedge Antilles is in all three, and a lot of people forget about that. I mean, if you ask a lot of people the trivia question, name the characters who are in all three Star Wars movies. They'll give you Han, Luke, Leia, Darth Vader, R2-D2, C-3PO, Chewbacca. Most people will totally forget to mention Wedge.
Yeah, I actually only remember him in the first movie.
Yeah, they're driving flying first. But he's even on. I remember because in Return of the Jedi, after they blow up the second Death Star and there's the big party on Endor, he's down there with Chewbacca hanging out. He's one of the guys dancing around till Lucas changed the music.
Oh yes.
I mean, come on, who does that? The music we talked about this before. The music at the end of Return of the Jedi, that Yub Yub song, where the US dub dub. Da, 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 and they're all dancing around, and they're playing bongos on the heads of their fallen enemies. Yeah. I mean, that was really cool. And then they changed it to that synthesized Yanni.
Yeah,
music.
It's weird because
so stupid.
Because the Yub Yub song sounded like it was native to the Ewoks.
Yes,
and where the other new one totally doesn't sound like Ewok music. It's just like a generic soundtrack that they put over so that the whole galaxy can celebrate all together.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, I know we're getting off on a anti-prequels rant when the question is about Wedge, but Wedge is but no, sadly, nobody cares about Wedge. So I think the likelihood, in case you haven't noticed, Dennis and I are still sick from Vegas, so forgive me, but I'm going to be sucking on a lozenge while we're doing the show because I'm going to try to keep my coughing to a minimum. So no, I don't think it would do well, and nobody really cares, and that's really a shame because Wedge is actually a pretty cool character.
And technically, that was not an anti-prequel talk because it was just about the revisions.
Yes, that's right. It was about the special editions. That's right.
Yes,
there's a complaint about the special edition revisions. There we go. See, we didn't do an anti-prequel rant. All right. The next question comes to us from Peter Richards, and Peter Richards writes, "Hi, sons and daughters of AMC. I recently watched the movie Priest, starring Paul Bettany and Maggie Q. I was just wondering if there was going to be a sequel. The ending set up for one. So do you think it could be possible that we will see another priest getting ready for war? Thanks for reading and bring on the filthy." Well, I actually didn't mind Priest. I thought Priest was okay. And here's the interesting thing about Priest. Priest was a movie done in 3D, and I am not a fan of 3D. But Priest was a movie done in 3D, and it was in the dreaded post-conversion 3D that everybody says sucks. But what happened was, Priest was like the first movie to like take a year to do post-conversion. They didn't do a 3-month post-conversion process. They actually worked on it for like a full year. And they talked a lot about that when they were promoting the film, about what they did to go through to make the process. And here's the thing. They convinced me that if you do post-conversion 3D right, it can look every bit as good as, if not better than stuff shot in 3D. And Priest, other than Avatar, okay, Avatar's better, but to me, Priest, and I don't like 3D, but Priest was the best 3D I've ever seen in a movie, other than Avatar. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those post-converted 3D movies. But they took their time, they were meticulous with it, and they did it really, really well. And yeah, to me, Priest ended up being the best use of 3D I'd ever seen in a movie, other than Avatar. But unfortunately, the reality is that the movie, I think internationally, worldwide, it made like $75 million. The movie needed to make about $130 million to break even. Mm-hmm. So it lost a lot of money. And so and it wasn't really, I think I liked it the most out of anybody. And I just liked it. I thought it was a decent movie, but a lot of people hated it and made no money. So just because we talk about this all the time, just because a movie sets itself up for a sequel doesn't mean a sequel is going to come, because the studio may think, oh, it's going to lose us more money, we're not going to make it. So I really, really highly, highly doubt we're going to see a pre-sequel unless someone decides to do a cheap $1 million straight-to-home video movie. But I don't know. What do you think the chances of
I mean, I didn't see Priest, so I can't comment on the quality of the movie or the 3D-ness. But I just thought it was interesting that for a while, Paul Bettany was like kind of, I don't know if it was himself or his agent or whoever, like they were trying to make him this action hero. Remember he was like in that other movie?
He was in that Angel where he was the angel fighting demons. I think it was called Legion.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then he was in Priest. Yeah, he was kind of getting positioned to be an action star for a bit.
I don't know where that came from.
No, and it didn't really go anywhere, which is too bad because I actually thought he was pretty decent in Priest. And it was Priest that convinced me, while I did not love the movie, and by the way, Carl Urban's in Priest too.
Oh,
He's the bad guy in it. It was Priest that convinced me that Paul Bettany could be a legit action hero. Okay. But it never really went anywhere after that.
No.
So,
but yeah, I don't see a sequel coming. It didn't make money. It didn't even break even.
No, it lost a lot of money.
Because sometimes the studio will go, okay, it broke even, but I see potential there, so let's try another go.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Stetson Robinson, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. I watch it every day. My question is about sequels. Speaking of sequels, what are the requirements for a studio to decide to make a sequel? How does Mortal Instruments, which was made for $60 million and only made $75 million at the box office, much like Priest, and was panned by critics, get a sequel, and Pacific Rim, which was made for $190 million and made over $400 million and has a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it doesn't get a sequel? I know Mortal Instruments is an already pre-established franchise. Maybe that's the reason? Your thoughts." Dennis, why does a movie that loses money, like Mortal Instruments, get a sequel, while Pacific Rim is having a very, very difficult time getting a sequel?
I think it's exactly what he said, because it's a pre-existing franchise. It's something that they feel like, okay, we already have a fan base, and we know... I remember they had made some quotes after the movie didn't do so well about how they saw all the mistakes that they made, so they feel like they can fix those mistakes and they can capitalize, hopefully, on the fan base, plus getting some new people in. That it's purely on potential. And also, I think Mortal Instruments is less of a risk than Pacific Rim. I love Pacific Rim.
Oh, so
I want to see a sequel, but the cost of it is... And, you know, they're still thinking about doing a Pacific Rim sequel. Whether we see it or not, that's remains
it's still a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely a bigger... I mean, $200 million, you know. I think Mortal Instruments, what would he say, $60 million?
Yeah.
You know? While it's not, like, no money, it's still not as much, you know, it's not as big a risk. I mean, that's... Pacific Rim is over 3 times that amount.
And here's the interesting thing. At about $60 million... to break even, Mortal Instruments needed to make somewhere in the neighborhood of 150, I think, 140. Because you have to take into account, add on top of that $60 million to $20 to $30 million for marketing. Then from the box office total, which was that 75, you minus producers' fees, you minus back end deals, and you minus the movie theaters take. And so to make back, to break even, so you figure $60 million to make, let's say $25 million they put into the marketing, so you're at $85 million. So the movie needs to make, if it's 140, maybe around $140 million it needed to make. Okay, so it loses money. You get a movie like Pacific Rim, $200 million to make, 40 plus million they put into marketing. You're now talking about a movie that needs to make around $400 million just to break even. Like there's a big, so the risk in making a Pacific Rim sequel is bigger. With a franchise film though, it's not always just about the dollars and cents. It's about what Dennis was saying, potential. They believe, the people who made Mortal Instruments believe that they figured out what they did wrong, And they believe they figured out a way to make it that will make the fans happy and make money. I guarantee you one of the things they're going to do is slash that production budget from $60 or $60 million probably down to $35. Is going to be one of the things they do. Now, you still make $75 million at the box office, but you cut your production down to $35 million. Suddenly now you're getting close to breaking even. And if you can get the Mortal Instruments fans back and interested again and come out a little bit more, suddenly now you're looking at a movie that could make you money. But it's just all about potential. And if they think they can do something that would improve upon, whereas with Pacific Rim, I don't know that a Pacific Rim sequel can make more than it did in its first run.
I think it'll make a little bit more because
Think so?
I think within at least the U.S. market,
Right.
people started to hear from other people, how good it was.
Word of mouth started going around.
Yes.
But here's what I don't get. There's a large chunk of people who did not like the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't, honestly, look, movies are subjective. Just because you like something doesn't mean I need to. And just because I like something doesn't mean you need to. And there's lots of movies that I love that I can look at people who don't love them and say, okay, I get why you don't like that. Blah, 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 blah. I thought Man of Steel was brilliant, but I can understand why some people may not like it. Okay. I honestly don't get why people wouldn't like Pacific Rim. It's such a bubblegum, fun fantasy movie.
I think some people took it they were trying to see it as a serious drama or something. Not
Maybe.
a drama, but to be more serious. I don't know how kind of what actually turns me off about the Transformers movies is it takes itself too seriously. Pacific Rim never did that. And I think maybe some people mistook some of the stuff in Pacific Rim thinking that it took itself too seriously, which I don't think it did, especially when you have the scenes with, when they're fighting in the city and you see the Jaeger, Gypsy Danger go back, and what happens, he hits, the little, metal balls on the desk, stuff stuff like that. I just thought, it was it's just,
yeah, I mean,
they're
don't get
having
me
fun.
wrong. I'm not, just because I'm saying I don't understand why people wouldn't like it doesn't mean I think people are wrong if you don't like it. Not that I'm not saying that at all. You're if you didn't like Pacific Rim, your opinion is just as completely valid as ours is. That's fine. I'm just saying I don't get it.
Yeah.
But there you go. All right, let's get to our last question today. And the last question today comes from John Sheesby, who writes, "Greetings from the UK." Well, greetings. Thanks for watching us. Do you think with the recent critical and commercial failure of The Legend of Hercules that the in development The Legend of Conan will be forced to change its title as they sound too similar to each other? Plus, as the film was hoping for a 2014 release date, would a date in 2015 be more likely? Possibly one left vacant by Ant-Man. It's funny. We were talking before we started doing the show. I've been a scatterball ever since getting back from Vegas. I mean, between New Media Expo, getting really sick, winning the award, all that kind of crap, I've just been a little bit scattered. I've been having a tough time and still being sick, refocusing. And while I knew that The Legend of Hercules kind of flopped financially, I didn't realize how badly it flopped. Made $17 million worldwide on a $75 million budget, probably closer to $100 million after you figure in the marketing. Wow. Just wow. I thought more people than that would go. I mean, I never thought The Legend of Hercules was going to be a big hit, but I thought more people than that would go see it, and they did not. But to your question of, does this mean that The Legend of Conan has to change title? Well, let's remember, Legend of Conan is a working title. It may end up being the title of the film. It may not. But I would say this. If they did want to use Legend of Conan as the title of the film, I don't think they need to change it. I don't think they need to change it whatsoever, because you know why? Nobody remembers The Legend of Hercules already. It was in theater just 3 weeks ago, and nobody remembers it. If they believe The Legend of Conan is the best title for their movie, I don't think the failure of The Legend of Hercules needs to dissuade them. I don't know. Dennis, how do you see it?
Also, Conan is the word that stands out to you, just like
Yes.
Hercules stands out. So the legend of, I don't think really.
Legend of, rise of,
Yeah.
the beginning of, what's the key word? Conan? Okay, Conan.
Yeah, so it's different. And then you have the other Hercules movie with The Rock coming out.
Right.
Potentially that could hurt it, but I see The Rock as, a much bigger superstar than someone like Kellen Lutz.
Yeah.
And I think his star quality, his charisma, I think will override that. And people, like you said, don't really remember this one
And
at
the
all.
lack of a lightning whip. As long as he doesn't use a lightning whip. If anything, I think The Rock's movie should rename itself to The Real Legend of Hercules. That's what they should do. That'd be a big FU to the other studio, I think. That'd be pretty cool. But you're right. It's also a matter of the star power of The Rock versus the star power of Kellen Lutz. I like Kellen Lutz. And I still believe, even though this movie flopped, that he is going to be a legit force in Hollywood over the next 5 to 10 years. I really do, and I still believe it. I like him very much. But there's no doubt there is a disparity between the star power of The Rock and Kellen Lutz. There's no doubt there. And I also think the movie that The Rock and Rush Hour director
Brett Ratner.
and Brett Ratner, I believe the Hercules movie that The Rock and Brett Ratner are making is more in line with the kind of movie that fans are expecting when they hear Hercules.
Yeah.
And so I think that movie will be just fine too. So I think Conan is just fine to keep its title if it decides to use that as a title, and nothing is saying that they absolutely will. I think they're fine to keep it. They're fine to change it, and I don't think it's going to hurt The Rock's film at all, either way.
No.
All right, folks, so that's all the questions we've got for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, and, of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk Show and our weekend AMC Mailbag Show. And, of course, lots of great movies playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. I want to thank the one and the only Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero or on YouTube, ThinkHeroPro.
And you can find me on the various social media networks just at John Campea. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. My name's John Campea for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.